BionicDance is filmed in front of a live studio audience.
Can an atheist be a good moral person? Can an atheist act in moral and ethical ways? Certainly he can.
Oh, well, thank you very much for that vote of confidence. But I have to ask, where's the fun in that? The best times are always had when we misbehave. Let's do this. Greetings, fellow space travelers. BionicDance here. It'll never cease to amaze me how people think you cannot be moral without God. But in my never humble opinion, the only way to be truly moral is without one.
All humans still retain the image of God upon them, even after the fall of Adam and Eve into sin. The image of God was effaced at the fall, but it was not erased, and so man still understands right and wrong, no matter how many try to say otherwise.
And this is where we run into our first problem straight away. If we have this image of God stamped on us somehow, that means we all know the rules, and if we don't follow them, well, clearly we're unholy and immoral. Not only does this assume that God's existence is a fact, one which has yet to be proved, but it also tries to set up the conditions of the argument such that anybody who says morality is subjective and uncertain with no easy answers will just be shut down, ignored, because we already know the rules that need to be followed. We're just rebelling. It's dishonest, to say the least. It's like setting up a game of chess and telling your opponent that any moves which checkmate your king are illegal. Never mind the part where it begs the question of God's existence, just hopscotching over that step to prove their claim that we all have morality etched into us somehow. Begging that particular question is just another layer of shady arguing.
Even atheists react to this inherent knowledge of right and wrong, some even to the extent of living exemplary lives.
Something we could never have done on our own, apparently. No, we don't get the credit for living our lives in a way that is kind and beneficial to others. It was just that smidge of God spooge left in our brains. Oh, maybe we get some credit for obeying it, but the idea, the concept, the knowledge of what is or is not good behavior, well, that could never have come from us, apparently. Imagine how much better it would make us if we're good all by ourselves, if we treat others not only how we'd want to be treated, but treated them the way they wanted to be treated, all with no God required. I suppose I shouldn't expect giving oneself credit from those whose religious mascot is a martyr, but think about it. Which source of morality would you really prefer? Merely following some pre-programmed deity-built mind widget, or figuring out what being nice means all on your own from experience and empathy? Which would make you a better person?
Morality is what people do, but ethics describe what people ought to do. And yes, people know what they ought to do.
If you listen to how he says it, there's a kind of pleading quality to it. Come on, people know what they ought to do. They do. Come on, man, believe me, damn it. Aww. But the fact is that there aren't always easy answers, and there are plenty of hypothetical ethics problems that illustrate this, such as the classic trolley problem and variants thereof, where you're forced to choose between two options, neither of which are obviously the quote-unquote right choice. Do you do nothing and allow several people to die, or do you act to save those 5 people by taking deliberate action that will kill only one, passively allow 5 deaths, or actively participate in one? Suppose the one death is that of a loved one and not a stranger. It's easy to understand the need for easy answers, an authority which has made rules we must all obey, and which we already know, so any violation is totally our own fault. The appeal of such a world is obvious. It's just not the world in which we actually live.
The difference between the atheist and the Christian in this sense is that the atheist may act ethically for certain reasons, for example, not wanting to go to jail. It disrupts the social order, it makes them look good to others, etc. But he has no ultimate reason for acting ethically, because there is no ultimate moral authority that exists over each sphere of his life.
You notice how all of the reasons given are pretty selfish. Nowhere is the possibility of an atheist actually, caring about people allowed for. But even those selfish reasons are better than the one given for the Christian, who is apparently not doing horrible things solely because they don't want to get a paddle-in from their sky daddy. Think about it. Not wanting to disrupt the social order versus not wanting to make God grumpy enough to hurt you. Which is more selfish? Which is more caring? Obedience to an authority versus not wanting to make lives worse by your actions. I will choose keeping people happy regardless of any deity's commands, because I care.
When confronted with a situation that demands both the Christian and the atheist to make moral choices, a situation in which societal constraints are removed, the reaction of each will be vastly different.
That seems a bit of an odd assumption. It also ignores the fact that Christianity, indeed any religion, is part of those societal constraints being removed. Nobody's born religious. It has to be taught. And if you think societal constraints haven't been influenced by religion, you're not paying attention. That someone could predict people's behavior after all of these were removed as factors is a ludicrous notion. Never mind how the behaviors of two different social demographics would differ. I understand the desire to believe the Christian would be Captain Altruism and the atheist would be a selfish creep, but there's no justification for making that assumption or that prediction.
If a society deems it morally acceptable to kill unborn babies, for instance, the atheist sees no reason to oppose the practice.
Says who? There are definitely atheists out there who aren't all cozied up to the notion of abortion. Naturally, of course, Skippy here is just going to say that's because they've listened to that God voice we all have. Awfully convenient, that little excuse. But atheism doesn't come with automatic ideals or conformity to social norms. Indeed, most atheists consider themselves free thinkers and would, before advocating or condemning societal norms, religious or not, critically examine them and their effect on people, as opposed to automatically obeying because they were told to. But while we're on the subject, did you know you can be Christian and pro-choice at the same time? It's true. Now tell me, which Christian is the one who is actually listening to their God-based flight control? And how do you prove it?
So, can an atheist act ethically? Certainly, but he has no ultimate reason to do so, and no ultimate authority to look to in order to ensure his line is indeed straight and unbendable.
No reason to do so, other than that it would make life suck a lot less. But who would ever use that as a motivation? Ultimate authority, straight and unbendable. These are the words of someone who is afraid, someone who refuses to accept that life is complicated and uncertain, someone who wants to run on automatic instead of thinking.
So, who wants cake? You have to rate first.